Our episode mentions that the original purpose of technology is not to showcase digital power, but to respond to the most basic needs of the people. How to interpret this statement?
Honestly, I read that line as a normative statement, not a descriptive one. In other words, it's not saying technology always serves people, it's saying it should. When we treat tech as a trophy, we end up optimizing for wow instead of useful. A flashy dashboard, 1,000 apps, but nothing that actually saves time or reduces stress. So for me, the sentence is basically a reminder that the real KPI of a technology is human convenience, safety, and dignity, not just a digital muscle. That said, in 2025, it's also pretty undeniable that China is a digital powerhouse. You can feel it in daily life, from how fast services scale to how smoothly different systems talk to each other. But I think that's exactly why the line matters. Digital power is not the end goal, it's the instrument. The most impressive power is when it becomes almost invisible, when you don't even notice the system because it simply works and removes friction from life. From a Turkish perspective, we actually have a good example of this philosophy too, called e-government. It's not a cool demo, but a real life infrastructure that makes public services accessible. It shows that people first digitalization can be done without turning everything into a tech show. The next step, and this is where China is really inspiring, is pushing that logic beyond services into city scale intelligence, mobility, disaster readiness, health, energy, all connected.
Thank you. Moving from philosophy to practical impact, let's look at specific applications. Our episode talks about how China is applying city brain, AIoT, 5G networks in sectors like healthcare, transportation, manufacturing, and even early disaster warning. Which application impressed you the most, and why?
For me, it's the earthquake early warning network, and I'm saying that as someone from Turkey, where earthquakes are not what if, they are a when. What impressed me is the idea of life-saving connectivity. Sensors plus real-time analytics plus ultra-low latency networks plus automated actions. In the episode's example, early warnings don't just pop up on the phone. They can trigger system behavior, slowing trains, switching infrastructure into safe mode, and shutting down gas lines. That's the moment where smart connectivity stops being convenience tech and becomes public safety engineering. In Turkey, we do have a strong capabilities in rapid response and damage estimation. Basically, an earthquake happened. Where is the damage? Where do we send help first? That part is valuable and it works. But a public-facing model where everyone gets an alert before shaking model is much harder in, for example, Istanbul, because you often have only a few seconds, and false alarms in a mega city can create chaos. So our early warning efforts are used more selectively for critical infrastructure such as gas systems, industrial facilities, and transport lines. Um, we rely on automated shutdowns and safe modes rather than mass alerts. Um, that's why I respect China's approach so much. It shows what's possible when a city has the full stack: sensing, networks, compute, and governance. They work as one, and it connects directly to the bigger message of smart connectivity. When systems are integrated, they can literally buy you seconds. And in an earthquake, seconds are not small, they are lives.
Thank you. Examples like this make it clear that smart connectivity is no longer a future concept. It is already reshaping how societies function. Let's imagine the future of new intelligent connectivity technology. How far do you think it could evolve? How could countries collaborate to achieve such a vision?
I think new intelligent connectivity is evolving to something like a nervous system for society. Not just more apps, but more coordination. The future isn't one magic technology, it's the ability to integrate infrastructure, data, standards, and institutions. When I first arrived in China, something that surprised me was how even small features like seeing traffic light countdowns in a navigation application actually reflect something huge underneath. Sensors, mapping, connectivity, real-time governance, and trust in the system. It looks simple, but it requires serious coordination. In terms of collaboration, I think countries can work together in three practical levels. First, establishing standards and interoperability so systems can communicate across borders. Second, promoting joint research and talent exchange, which I will talk about. And third, creating pilot cities where solutions are tested in real environments, not just on the labs. Here, what I said on the second, I would like to add a Turkish angle that I find pretty impressive. Professor Erdal Arıkan, the inventor of polar codes, a key piece in modern communications. Huawei's recognition of him is a great example of how global this field is. I sometimes wish big Turkish companies and institutions would partner more actively with experts like him, funding labs, supporting long-term research, and building ecosystems around breakthroughs the way top tech countries do. Because new intelligent connectivity isn't only about importing solutions, it is also about building the scientific and industrial capacity to shape the next generation together.
Thank you.